Welcome back to patreon.com/Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news, as well as YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc., etc. Want to send a happy Thanksgiving to all. I hope you enjoyed turkey dressing, stuffing, whatever the hell it is that you eat. Hope you enjoyed family, friends, food, and football. But it's time to get back to work. So, as we generally like to start the show off with a segment called Grain of Salt, there hadn't been much news lately. Crazy. We're going to have a pretty long show today because there was a lot of news this week. But again, take this with a grain of salt until you get confirmation. This comes from our friends over at Insider Gaming. Apparently, Nintendo Switch 2 releasing March of 2025. Rumor claims. Now, here's the thing. The Switch released March 3rd, 2017. Could I see this happening again? Possibly. Difference is that time we got a peek at the Switch in October. Then we got a full blowout in January, and then pre-orders went live that night as well. It was at night. It was like 11 o'clock at night because it was done at Nintendo of Japan. So it's like whatever time it is there during the day, but it was like 10 or 11 o'clock here at night. So I remember doing that and then going on Amazon and then setting up my pre-order. And lo and behold, I got my Switch on day one and I was ecstatic. The Nintendo Switch 2 will release March 2025. That's according to the latest rumor published by popular Nintendo news channel Nintendo Prime. According to the latest rumors, which the channel found on Chinese forum Weibo and the Femi Board's gaming forum, Nintendo will officially reveal its next system in January of 2025, followed by a March launch. It feels like this is a copy and paste. I don't know how credible this source is because this is exactly what happened last time again, albeit the one thing would be missing would be the little glimpse of the Switch in October. Nintendo has not responded to a request for comment as of publishing, and as always, until something is made official or Insider Gaming can independently confirm the details, please take all rumors with a grain of salt, just like this segment of the show. That said, this isn't the first time a March release date has been rumored for the follow-up console. Also, the last update from the company is that the console will be announced before April. Makes sense. As far as what to expect with the next Nintendo Switch console, Nintendo confirmed that it will have backwards compatibility. So we bring our Switch library, physical as well as digital, over to the new system, I would assume, as well as feature the same Nintendo Switch Online service that players currently have. Other rumors about the console include magnetic Joy-Con controllers with additional buttons, as well as support for up to 4K resolution when docked. It was supposed to run at 1080 when docked on the Switch, and there were some games that struggled to hit 900, so I don't know. It's also been claimed that the new system will get AAA games around its launch, something the current Nintendo Switch didn't have. None of these reports have been confirmed either. Do you think the Nintendo Switch 2 will release in March of 2025? You guys hit me up and let me know. Here's my thing. Again, this all kind of lines up with what they've been talking about. And again, it feels like a copy and paste from last time. Would they run it the same way? It's quite possible. Could this just be bullshit and people are trying to set us up to fall for something? That's also quite possible. I will keep my head to my face, my ear to the street, to the message boards, the forums, all that stuff to deliver the information for you. But again, until it has been confirmed and clarified, take this with a grain of salt. Also, in grain of salt this week, rumor alert. MGN has consistently adhered to a stringent policy that only disseminates official news or information that can be verified by reliable sources. This comes from MGN. While we are open to sharing unveiled information that is brought to our attention with the noted context, this particular source passed this information along weeks ago, but I was unable to verify this through our normal channels. Please treat this as a rumor with no confirmed basis and nothing more. So again, take this with a grain of salt until otherwise. I hope this is true, though. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater release date. Sources have told MGN that MGS Delta is currently scheduled for a March release. The team aims to announce the release date in December. And what happens in December? Well, the Game Awards. So that would be the perfect place. Konami, more than Konami will be on hand because Silent Hill 2 has been nominated. Also, Hideo Kojima will be on hand, so how is this going to work out? It doesn't matter, though. No specific date was given in December. One idea may be on the Japanese release date anniversary of MGS 3, Snake Eater on December 16th. An announcement will possibly make sense. Or do it 4 days in advance of that at the Game Awards. I don't know. In other news, again, take this also with a grain of salt. Nothing has been confirmed by PlayStation. Bloodborne servers are undergoing maintenance on December 3rd of 2024. That would be next Tuesday. So by the time you guys hear this on the free feeds, it'll be the next day. The same date that was hidden in a recent PlayStation trailer is a remaster or remake announcement finally happening. I don't know. I hope that you guys get it. I really hope you do. I know a lot of people love Bloodborne. I'm not a fan of Souls genre games, and I've said that many a time here. So, but for the people who are every year like we're getting Bloodborne this year, or we're getting the Metroid Prime trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. Temper your expectations, that's all I'm saying, but I hope that you guys get it because I know how much it means to you. But again, as with the other things we just talked about, take this with a grain of salt until there's an actual confirmation. I don't think that Sony December 3rd again is Tuesday. If you're listening on the free feeds, this is the next day. That means that a Sony show would have to be announced. I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow being Thanksgiving. So Sony would have to announce the show Friday because they're not going to announce actual business on Saturday or Sunday. That's why I don't really give any credence to this. I just don't. Stranger things have been known to happen. I don't know. Some people are like PlayStation Experience is coming back. I don't see that happening. Sony's not even doing trade shows. They haven't shown they were the first to pull out of E3. Like Nintendo and EA, they still did business around the E3 week, but Sony was like, yeah, there's no point for us to be there. There's no point for us to be there. So I don't see them pulling out of that to control their own narrative through the state of play and then bringing back PlayStation Experience. I just don't see that happening. But stranger things have been known to happen. But again, if you guys, I know the people who absolutely love Bloodborne. I hope that you guys get it, and I hope you get whatever other remaster or remake that you want. I still want Ocarina of Time in the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom engine. I think that would be incredible. I think that would be an awesome way to kick off the Switch 2. I would assume they would have a Mario game ready to go and probably Mario Kart 9. But we'll see. Our top story today though is retransition. Um, we want to bid this man farewell. PlayStation's Shuhei Yoshida is leaving PlayStation after 31 years of the company. He will be leaving January 15th of 2025. Shout out to Big Shu. We're gonna miss you. I kind of wonder what's happening at PlayStation. All of the guys, like Sean Layton, when Sean Layton left, everybody's like, no, it's fine. We don't see Andrew House anymore. I don't even know if Andrew House is still part of PlayStation. I don't know. I have to check on that. Jim Ryan, obviously, out. Some people believe he was pushed out. Some people believe that he just went ahead and retired on his own. I don't know. Not super fond of the Jim Ryan era. I'm not gonna lie. So, but Sean Layden, I thought that he was charismatic. I thought that he understood the people. I thought he understood the PlayStation gamer and the PlayStation ecosystem. Jim Ryan was definitely a finance guy. It was about the books and bottom line. I don't think Jim Ryan actually sits down with a DualSense every night and plays video games. I still believe that Sean Layden is gaming probably multiple times a week. So I don't know. But anyway, we want to send our warmest regards to Shuhei Yoshida, a proud company man. 31 years, like he's been there. It's interesting that we're celebrating PlayStation's 30th anniversary. All the unboxings are out today of the 30th anniversary PlayStation Pro. And Shuhei was there for all of that. So kudos to him on a job well done. Um, I have more to report on the Kadokawa acquisition by Sony. So this came in probably a few hours before I sat down to record. This comes from PlayStationLifestyle.net. From Software parent company Kadokawa Corporation has reportedly been pushing Sony Group towards a purchase, according to a new report. We first saw speculation last week that Kadokawa set the stage for a Sony acquisition to fend off a hostile takeover from foreign companies, including South Korea's Kakao Corp. A fresh report by Bloomberg partially backs up these claims. Analysts say Kadokawa purchase is in Sony's best interest from software would be a bonus. Bloomberg reports that both Kadokawa and Sony have been going back and forth for a number of years, with the former wanting Sony to make a full purchase, whereas the latter was, only interested in strategic investments in anime and video game IP. Just a second. Though Bloomberg's report mentions that Microsoft, Tencent, and Kakao have all experienced an interest in Kadokawa, it stopped short of confirming that Kadokawa wanted to fight off a foreign entity in favor of a local Sony group. I'm going to pause right here. Doing business with an American company trying to acquire you, like Activision Blizzard King, here. Bethesda ZeniMax, here, in the U.S. And when I say here, Kadokawa is a Japanese company. Japanese regulators were not going for an American company coming in and seizing that company. Just not going to happen. Established in 1945, Kadokawa was an anime powerhouse with a library of over 100,000 novels and comics. Company previously dismissed suggestions of an acquisition, but with its founding members gone and it being publicly listed, Kadokawa doesn't seem interested in fighting off any offers going forward. Interestingly, Bloomberg claims that a news of a potential acquisition pushed Kadokawa's market value up to $4.1 billion, making a deal with Sony more difficult than it was just a week ago. Additionally, offers from other buyers are also a possibility, so what happens next remains to be seen. Analysts have told Bloomberg that Kadokawa could be one of Sony's best purchases and that From Software alone holds massive value, although the acquisition has more to do with anime than anime and video games. Look, there's been a lot of public outcry. Same people who champion Microsoft acquiring whole publishers are like, this would be terrible for the business. Destin Legary, I'm talking about you. Colt Eastwood, I'm talking about you. When it's for the Green brand, it's all good and it's all business. When Sony tries to do it, no, this is bullshit and they should not have this and da 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 and blah 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 blah. What's good for the goose is good for the fucking gander, my boy. Sorry. Like, I don't even know any other way to say it. There's probably, that's not even crass, because I could have said it a much worse way, but I'm not going to do that. Um, if they can, and this is not me like it's a feather in your campus. I'm part of each ecosystem. PlayStation, uh, Xbox, Nintendo, PC. It's not going to bother me if they get them or if they don't get them, right? Didn't bother me when Microsoft purchased Activision, Blizzard, or Bethesda ZeniMax. Why? Because I have an Xbox and I have a PC. It doesn't matter to me. What I will say is, Sony already owns this. It's a small percentage in From Software, but they already own a percentage in From Software. So, is it really going to make that much more of a difference? I don't think that they would make the games exclusive. I think that they'll look. Some of them, I think, would stay PlayStation titles. Bloodborne for one, right? I don't think if Elden Ring has a follow up that they're going to pull it off PC and Xbox. That's just not happening. The game has shown that it's going to sell wherever it is. So I think that certain games will stay there. I think legacy titles that people think about when they think about the PlayStation brand that come from software, yeah, I think it makes sense to possibly keep those exclusive. Other than that, it doesn't really matter all that much. And if it matters that much to you, you can either buy a PlayStation console or wait a year or two after the game's release for when it inevitably becomes a PC, because that's what most tentpole Sony titles are doing at this point. But yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think that people are just, it's a bunch of doom and gloom for nothing. Like, calm the fuck down. The value went up because all the chatter started last week, and now they're valued at 4.1 billion. Sony spent 3 billion on Bungie, and that didn't turn out well. So what does that tell you? I just think people need to calm down. That's just the way I feel. Interestingly enough, for you PC players out there, I thought this was interesting. Civilization, XCOM, and more no longer feature the 2K launcher. 2K has removed its launcher from all PC games. BioShock Mafia, Civilization publisher 2K has officially shut down its PC games launcher and removed the platform from all of its games. Additionally, the publisher has also removed the 2K launcher beta, a completely separate launcher, from Sid Meier's Civilization 5. PC launchers are used by some publishers as a means of booting their games. However, many users dislike them because of the extra issues they can cause when launching titles. I personally, when I got into the PC world and I found out that you had to use launchers, I was like, this is fucking stupid. If I buy a game from Steam or the Epic Game Store, why can't I just, like, I have Red Dead Redemption 2 and I bought it from the Epic Game Store, right? You could hit launch from your library and then it brings up the Rockstar launcher and it's like, if you haven't signed in a while, it's like, enter your credentials. I'm like, bro, I don't feel like I should have to fucking do this to verify the license of a game I bought. But that's where we are. We're in the licensing age, and we've soon found out. I keep telling people invest in physical media because essentially they're going to take all this away from us at some point. Like, they're lying to us. It's like, I think, who was it, Microsoft or Sony? Somebody had to clarify that when you buy a game, you're not actually buying the game. You're just buying the right to the license. And at any point, they could pull that. Just know that. In its blog post, 2K details the potential issues some titles might have due to the removal of the launcher. Quote, we've done the heavy lifting, but to take it all the way home, there might be one step left for you. It says, first thing is try closing and reopening Steam. That means completely closing and not just using the X to minimize the platform. Rebooting your PC is a good way to be sure it happened. For Epic, just make sure you've downloaded the most recent update for the game. BioShock Remastered, BioShock 2 Remastered, BioShock Infinite, The Quarry, and Marvel's Midnight Suns will now all launch directly into the game as soon as users click play, 2K says. Well, that's nice. Other titles such as Mafia Trilogy, Definitive Edition, and XCOM 2 have special case issues, such as requiring the launcher to enable mod support. So everybody's like, yeah, I play on PC for mods, and I'm like, they're not all that cool. It's like, oh, I remember seeing like mods in Grand Theft Auto 5, and my daughter got a kick out of it because they modded like a really, really tall version of Mario in there. And she was like, Daddy, I want to watch the Mario video. And like, after a while, I was like, this probably isn't the best thing in the world for a 4-year-old. But she recognizes Mario, but I'm recognizing the streets of Los Santos and like somebody's getting robbed 2 blocks down. So she's 11 now, but dad mishap, whatever. But again, that's very interesting. I don't think that everybody's going to do with it or do away with launchers. Don't get rid of your Rockstar launcher. Don't get rid of other publishers, um, Steam. Because I'm sorry, I don't think they're all going away. I just don't think they're all going away. I haven't bought any PlayStation games on PC. If anybody knows, do they require you to? No, because PlayStation have a PC launcher. That's right. So you buy the PlayStation titles from the Epic Game Store or Steam, and they don't have a PC launcher. But there was one that was found in some code somewhere, so there could be a PC launcher coming next year, which would also explain the fact that Sony's not backing down on the PlayStation Network sign-in for PC games, especially if they're multiplayer games. So, hmm, would be interesting. I would like to see if that Sony PlayStation PC launcher comes to fruition. We will see, and I will keep you guys updated on that. In other news, looks like they're getting the band back together. We don't know what this is for. It's coming from Naughty Dog, though. Troy Baker is reuniting with Neil Druckmann for Naughty Dog's untitled new game. Now, this does not mean the new IP. This could be The Last of Us Part 3. We don't know. It's untitled as of yet. We don't know. Troy Baker is set to star in Naughty Dog's untitled new game. The Sony-owned studio is building a yet-to-be-announced single-player game with Uncharted and The Last of Us chief Neil Druckmann at the helm. Pause really quickly. Amy Hennig came up with Uncharted. That's all I'm saying. No shot to Neil Druckmann because I love Neil Druckmann, but Amy Hennig, like Nathan Drake, is in her DNA. I'm just saying. Fans know next to nothing about this project, but according to GQ, Troy Baker has signed on to appear in it. Quote, in a heartbeat, I would always work with Troy. Druckmann is quoted as saying in their article, Baker famously played Joel in The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2 for Naughty Dog and has worked closely with Druckmann for years. In December of last year, Naughty Dog canceled The Last of Us Online, its troubled attempt to create a live service version of the popular franchise. At the time, the studio said it would have needed to put all its resources into post-launch content for years to come, and that approach would have severely impacted its ability to develop future single-player games. Naughty Dog then went on to confirm that it had more than one ambitious brand new single-player game in the works without revealing anything about them. There are smaller Sony studios that could have supported the game post-launch content-wise. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Instead of shutting down Deviation, it's like, you don't have shit for anybody to play on our console or PC, so you're gonna fucking work on The Last of Us Online. Because Deviation was making a shooter from what I understand. Factions, you're still shooting. Like you're scavenging for resources and stuff like that, but you're also killing people via guns and knives, bow and arrows as well. But why not get a studio that was working on a shooter, give them the code? I'm pretty sure if you work, look, if you work in the games business and you haven't played The Last of Us, do you really work in the games business? That's my question to you. So I don't know if I don't know how much money Sony invested into Deviation games, but before I shut them down, I'd have got some work out of them because they basically got a free check to sit around and do nothing, and that money's gone. Make them do something before they leave. Like if I was in charge, I'd be like, no, 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 no. You guys aren't going indie. We're not going to shut you down. You're now a support studio. The Last of Us Online. Get to work. Get to work. It just made all the sense in the world. And for me, like, even the studio that did Concord, like, I don't know. You got to find something before shutting these studios down because you're just going to keep shutting them down and that's money gone down the drain. I would find something. The next studio that's up to be shut down, you better find a project that they can support one of the main Sony studios on. And yeah, that was asinine in my opinion. I don't know. Naughty Dog then went on to confirm that it had more than one ambitious brand new single player game in the works without revealing anything about them. Excuse me. In June, Druckmann said Naughty Dog was looking to break away from being predominantly associated with The Last of Us. Quote, I promise you we will not be The Last of Us studio forever. Which means, obviously, The Last of Us Part 3 is coming, which I expect to be a finale. All good franchises are usually trilogies. They shouldn't go any further than that. Looking directly at you, The Fast and the Furious and Saw. Just saying. Druckmann assisted speaking of Naughty Dog's beloved post-apocalyptic franchise that debuted in 2013 and received its Part 2 sequel in 2020. Studio is otherwise best known for creating the Uncharted franchise, though this was put to bed with 2016's Uncharted: The Thief's End and a smaller follow-up, The Lost Legacy, a year later. Cassie Drake may be coming, just saying, but it won't be coming from Naughty Dog. We do know that. In a shorter term, Baker is set to start as Indiana Jones for Machine Games' Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Then he will appear in Ken Levine's Judas, having played Bioshock Infinite protagonist Booker DeWitt. Season 2 of HBO's TV show The Last of Us comes out in spring 2025. I don't think Troy survived. He was part of David's camp in season 1, and I don't remember if anybody in the game survived. He was like David's right-hand man, and I mean, obviously they altered it from the game to the TV show, so I don't remember Troy Baker surviving. I'd have to go back and watch it, but I don't know. We'll see. In other news coming from Team Blue, also from our friends at Insider Gaming, the news is out there. Sony developing a PlayStation handheld console to compete with the Switch and Xbox. Sony is gearing up to enter the handheld console market. A new report from Bloomberg states that Sony is developing a portable handheld console that would allow people to play their PlayStation 5 games while on the go. There was that update. I do not have PlayStation Plus Premium because there's no use for it for me, but some people got into the beta where you could download the update and you could play certain PlayStation 5 games without actually being linked to your PlayStation 5 and streaming them over the internet. So it looks like they're taking this a step further. According to the report, development on this new system is in the early stages. Sony's portable device is likely years away from launch, and the company could still decide against bringing it to the market, the people said. Asking not to be named discussing private plans, the report reads. It said the development builds on the PlayStation Portal as opposed to playing games via streaming them from the console over the internet. However, this new device will be an actual console that is aiming at competing with the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo's upcoming Switch successor. Bloomberg adds the sources told them that Sony's original plan for the Portal was for it to work as a standalone system like Valve's Steam Deck before it became the streaming device it is. Sony, of course, declined to comment on the Bloomberg report. In addition to PlayStation developing a handheld console, Microsoft is also working on their own handheld to tap into the market. Xbox boss Phil Spencer says that their handheld is still years away. Two things really quickly. Microsoft is going to have a hard time trying to sell a Xbox handheld. And the reason for that is you can install Windows on a Steam Deck and run through the PC store like that. That's number one. The ROG Ally exists already and you can play Xbox games on there. So unless they're going away and unless Microsoft says, hey, give us our tech back, you're not going to be able to run Xbox software on the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck any further. They've already cut themselves halfway out of the market. This is just bad business. Everybody's going to be like, well, you're a Sony guy. No, again, I'm part of every ecosystem, so I don't lock myself in and can't play certain games. The difference with Sony is the fact that we've had years of PlayStation handhelds. We had the PSP, we had the PS Go, PS Vita, and now we got the PlayStation Portal. It's not like Sony rolled out of bed here 30 years later and said, we're going to make a fucking handheld. That's not what happened here. They already have handhelds in their history. So it's different. It's completely different. All PlayStation games are not on PC day one. They take a minute. So I don't know how this is going to work because remember how expensive the PlayStation Vita memory cards were? They were proprietary. You had to have them. right? Just like Microsoft signed that deal with, I forget who it was, for the expanded storage on the Xbox, on the Series X and Series S, where Sony worked with a bunch of different M.2 drive companies, and then you just had to find one that matched the speed of the PlayStation 5, right? So you can go, I can go to Walmart, get one, a friend can go to Target and get one completely different, but they both will work. Microsoft had this exclusive deal where that only, I think, I want to say it was, damn it, I can't remember the name of the company, but they're very prominent in the storage market. They was just them. It was them. So you had to go that route, and that's why I never bought the expanded storage for either of my Xboxes. But yeah, this for Sony, this is probably going to work. I'm not shitting on Microsoft. I just want you guys to understand they backed themselves into a corner. In order for this thing to sell and for this thing to work, they would have to pull their tech off of the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. Like cut and dry. That's the only way it works. That's the only way it works. And I don't see them doing that. So I don't know. Destin Legary being like, yeah, the handheld's gonna save Xbox. Well, Xbox already admitted they lost the console war. They admitted to losing the console war, and they think the way to fix that is to create a handheld that's years away, by the way. Years away. Like that's just bad business, and that's just stupid on the part of Destin Legary. One of the two of these is not actually going to make it to market. I'd be surprised that both of them did. I'd be very surprised that both of them did. Difference with Sony is they're already in the market with the PlayStation Portal. So, I mean, we'll see. I just don't have high hopes for the Microsoft one. I'm not being a jerk. I'm being dead ass serious. Like this might not work in their favor. In other news, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director says Xbox is great, wants to see the trilogy on more platforms. Huh. I got news for you, dumbass. Here's the thing. Your bosses signed an exclusivity deal with Sony for the first two games. For console, they are exclusive to PlayStation. It would not make sense to put the third game and only the third game on the Xbox. Because if Sony ain't locked up exclusivity yet, fine, put it on the Xbox. You can't play the first two parts. You'd have to play them on PC. Anyway, Naoki Hamaguchi, who was the co-director of Final Fantasy VII Remake and the director of Rebirth, was recently asked by Games Radar how he felt about the game being released on other platforms. Hamaguchi replied that while there were no announcements to make yet, he wanted to see remake games appearing on more systems. Mac, there's room to put it on Apple because it's not a console. In the console landscape, it's exclusive to the PlayStation brand. I'm just saying, like, these deals were signed and we knew this. So the fact that everybody's acting crazy, like, this is going to happen. No, it's not. Maybe, just maybe, when all three games are released, there'll be a package version. And if they do the 3-disc joint, it would probably be 6 discs because of Blu-ray, you needing 2. So we're talking, I'm buying it. The cellophane may never come off. I may never take the plastic wrap off, but I'm buying it because I'm a Final Fantasy VII super fucking fan. Anyways, quote, in terms of Final Fantasy VII, there's nothing we can really say at the moment, but certainly I do want to bring Final Fantasy VII and the remake series to as many players out there as possible, Hamaguchi explained. So we want to create that situation, that environment where more players can play the games in the future, and we want to look in that direction. Hamaguchi also stated that while it used to be possible to release a game on a single platform and have players buy that system to play it, that's less the case these days. Explaining that while in the past, publishers could put out a game in one place and get most of the players coming to that game to play it on that platform. He said it's so much more diversified now, so I think that's probably why our CEO, Mr. Kiru, made the decision to move more in the direction of multi-platform. That's just the way the industry is going. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of several PlayStation recent PS5 exclusives that have failed to meet Square Enix sales expectations, leading the publisher to announce plans to shift to a multi-platform strategy. Not totally. Although he didn't specifically mention Xbox when saying he wanted to see the Final Fantasy VII Remake series on other platforms, Hamaguchi was then asked for his opinion on Square Enix multi-format strategy, to which he praised the Xbox platform. Quote, this is just a personal opinion now, but I've got an Xbox myself, he replied. I think it's great hardware. I think it's a great hardware platform. I do like Xbox. Last month, Final Fantasy producer Naoki Yoshida said that he'd like to release Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox platforms. Quote, of course, we did announce the PC version of the game, so looking toward the Xbox version, we do not want to release it on Xbox. We do want to release it on Xbox, I'm sorry. He said in an interview, when it comes to specifics such as when the game would be available and such, we are not in a position to be able to share anything. Earlier this month, Yoshida then stated that Square Enix plans to release games simultaneously on Xbox more and more going forward. Well, I hear you. I'm not an idiot. The documents are there, they exist. That's not happening anytime soon. Tell you that right now. Right now. Also, the sales numbers are going to keep coming back on games that have gone to Xbox and then flopping on Xbox. Like a lot of people are playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6, but a lot of people on Xbox, like myself, are playing via Game Pass. And the game sold very well on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, whereas it didn't do so on the Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S consoles because it's there in Game Pass. They're going to find that this isn't going to work out in their benefit. And Game Pass, I used to call it the best value in gaming, only if you have Ultimate, because the way that it was presented initially and then the day and date, it was the best value in gaming. They took that away, so it's not the same now. I don't know. Also, speaking of Xbox, this comes from TheVerge.com. Microsoft has announced that Microsoft Edge Game Assist, a new Edge-powered in-game browser overlay, is available for beta testing in Windows 11. The gaming-aware overlay lives in the Microsoft Game Bar, designed to automatically find and show you links to tips and guides for the game you're playing using the Edge browser. Game Assist uses the profile you're logged into Edge, so it'll give you access to your data, like cookies, autofill, and favorites, so you don't need to log into sites again. Like other Game Bar widgets, you can pin it above your game as you play. Game Assist is currently available in English. You'll need to opt into the preview and set Microsoft Edge Beta 132 as your default browser to use it. You'll have to find content yourself for most games now, but the game-aware part of the Game Assist will surface information automatically for a few games, including Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, and Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga. Microsoft says it'll be adding support for others throughout the preview and over time. In the second video, Microsoft shows how the overlay works when used to follow along with video guides. Game Assist only supports mouse and keyboard input for the moment. Not going to work for me. Microsoft writes it's adding support for handhelds and gamepads in the future. Compact mode support is also coming later, the company says. Below are Microsoft's instructions for getting started with Game Assist. Number 1, make sure Windows 11 and Game Bar are up to date. Number 2, Game Assist requires the beta or preview channel of Microsoft Edge. If you're running Windows Insider builds on your PC or have opted into Edge Preview, you already have Edge Preview and can skip to step 3. Otherwise, install the Microsoft Edge Insider Beta channel. You can also use the dev channel for the latest updates, but things may be slightly less stable. Set Edge Beta as your default browser. Go to Windows, Settings, Apps, Default, Apps, Search for Edge, and at the top of the page, click Edge Beta, set as default. To opt into Game Assist, preview and install the Game Bar widget in Edge. Go to Settings and More. Settings, and search for Game Assist in the search box. Find the Game Assist option above the page zoom setting and select Install Widget. If you haven't used Edge Beta Preview before in Edge, go to Settings and More, close Microsoft Edge, and then reopen the browser. You may have to repeat this step a few times for Game Assist option to appear. This just feels like the tips and stuff. I'm not saying they're copying off of Sony. This is like the tips and stuff like that. And then Sony pulled a lot of that shit. Some of it's still there, but it's funny the way the console's UI will look on day one of the launch versus the further you get along. I remember the PlayStation 4 UI was just really unappealing at launch, and then it got much better as we got along. PlayStation 5 UI at launch wasn't great. It looks really good now. PlayStation 3, the cross-media bar was really cool. It even improved as we went further along. Microsoft, the tiles, the Xbox One having the tiles, because I think it was it Windows 10, whichever version of Windows at the time had the tiles, and they put it on the Xbox and it looked absolutely horrid. When they switched to the newer UI and then kept building on that, it looked absolutely great. Those tiles were horrendous. So everybody does this except for Nintendo. They don't really update UI all that often, but Nintendo, that's Nintendo. That's Nintendo. Speaking of Microsoft and speaking of Call of Duty, October 2024 USA sales, PS5, PS4 account for 82% of all Call of Duty Black Ops 6 sales in the US, which goes to say that only 18% are spread out over PC and possibly Xbox. U.S. sales data for the month of October has arrived, courtesy of Circana and analyst Matt Piscatella. Perhaps the most interesting is the sales performance of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is the first entry to be included on Xbox's Game Pass subscription service. As noted by Piscatella, 82% of the game's sales in October were for the PS5 and PS4 versions. It's a somewhat similar story in Europe. The latest physical game chart revealed an 89% slice of the pie for Sony systems. Analysts also notes a year-on-year increase of 16% in non-mobile subscription spending for the month of October, primarily driven by Black Ops 6 inclusion on Game Pass Ultimate. It's worth noting that Game Pass had its prices increased earlier this year, so that will also have contributed to this increase. Even so, the game's first 2 weeks sales compared to last year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 were up by 23%. Everybody really hated Modern Warfare 3. It didn't bother me, but I know a lot of people hated that game. Black Ops 6 is now the country's third best-selling game of 2024 behind College Football 25 and Helldivers 2. Elsewhere, lots of new releases shake up the monthly chart with the likes of Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero, Silent Hill 2, Undisputed Metaphor, Fantasio, and more joining Black Ops 6 in the rundown. And speaking of Sparking Zero, it's already become the U.S. best-selling Dragon Ball game ever. So USA Software sales top 10 for October of 24, Black Ops 6, Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero, Silent Hill 2, Undisputed, Metaphor, Fantasio, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Madden NFL 25, Sonic X Shadow Generations, EA Sports FC 25. PS5 and PS4 software sales top 10 October of 24. Black Ops 6, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Silent Hill 2, Undisputed, Madden NFL 25, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Metaphor Fantasio, EA Sports FC 25, College Football 25, and again, Sonic X Shadows Generations. This is like when I do the College Football Weekly show and I have to read not only the AP poll, but the coaches poll. Anyway, moving right along, this comes from PSU.com. The Callisto Protocol's PS5 Pro Enhanced update runs the game at 8K 30 frames per second or at 4K 60 frames per second with ray tracing on. PS5 Pro owners can add another PS5 Pro Enhanced game to their list of games to check out to help justify spending $700 on mid-gen refresh. This time at Striking Distance Studios' SDS debut game, The Callisto Protocol. I thought that studio shut down. Oh no. Arriving at the tail end of 2022, The Callisto Protocol was the spiritual successor of sorts to Dead Space, the game that SDS co-founder Glenn Schofield directed back when it first came out on PS3 and Xbox 360. While it looked great and brought its own flavor of horror games set in space with a focus on melee and close-quarter encounters, it had the unfortunate problem of still not being better than Dead Space, a fact that everyone was reminded of less than a month later when Dead Space Remake arrived on modern platforms. For now, at least the Callisto Protocol does have a step up on Dead Space because it's officially a PS5 Pro Enhanced game, and those with the PS5 Pro console can now run the game at either 4K 60 frames with ray tracing or 8K 30 frames per second, also with ray tracing. Dead Space Remake is yet to make the list. It should be pointed out that you won't be able to play the game in 8K if you don't have an 8K TV, which a lot of people don't. But then again, if you just bought a PS5 Pro, you might already have an 8K TV or at least the financial bandwidth to consider one. Experience the Callisto Protocol like never before with the power of PlayStation 5 Pro. Fight out the Black Iron Prison in breathtaking 8K at 30 frames per second or 4K at 60 frames per second, both with fully ray tracing. SDS wrote in a post on Twitter announcing the update. I actually have Callisto Protocol in my PlayStation library, so I might as well finish checking it out. Why not? Right? Why the fuck not? And then lastly, going back to our Nintendo story earlier, this also coming from VGC, Nintendo Switch eShop and online services are ending in China in 2026. Interesting. But is China a dictatorship or is that correct? I don't know. The Nintendo Switch eShop and all of the network services are being closed down in China in 2026. On March 31st of 26, the Chinese Nintendo eShop will stop selling games and any other software. After this date, all software, including paid and free titles, will no longer be available to purchase or claim. So essentially, if you've already bought it from the China Nintendo eShop, you have to download it and keep it on your console. You can't go back and claim it later is the way this is being worded. On May 15th of 2026, players will no longer be able to download titles or redeem codes. Bingo, there you go. DLC will also become unavailable at this time. In China, the Nintendo Switch is sold in collaboration with Tencent, the Chinese tech giant that owns a dozen of developers and other tech firms. When the Nintendo Switch was first launched in China in 2020, it released with just one first-party game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In the years since its release, older Nintendo Switch titles have been localized for the Chinese market. From November 27th of 2024 until March 31st of 2026, players who own a Chinese Nintendo Switch that have an active WeChat account associated will receive up to 4 Nintendo Switch games for free. Games that players can choose from are New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Party, Mario Tennis Aces, Yoshi's Crafted World, Flexible Brain School, Dr. Kawashima's Brain Exercises, Kirby Star Allies, New Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Players can only redeem the free games once per WeChat account that is tied to a user. If a user has multiple Nintendo Switch consoles, they will need multiple active WeChat accounts to receive the free games. So there you have it. I believe, yeah, that's all that I have for you guys this week. I thought it'd be a little longer, but no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that is my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.